Hello students, so today we are going to start with a new chapter in biology, that is a nutrition. Nutrition is a very interesting chapters. So let's start with the definition first. Okay, what do you mean by the term nutrition? See, what do you mean by the term nutrition? The nutrition means the supply of essential organic and inorganic chemical compound to the body. What does that means? That means the organic and the inorganic means the proper amount of the nutritions like proteins, vitamins, carbohydrates. This all are the nutrients which are quite essential for a human body to consume. Why it is essential? Because by getting a proper amount of a diet in a proper amount of a quantity, we can stay healthy. So we are going to discuss about the what is the need of the nutrition. See, it helps in a growth. Okay, it helps in a repair, energy, maintenance, provisional of raw materials and protection. First I'm going to discuss about the growth part. What does that mean? Okay, see, when you were a baby, at that period of a time, your mom used to feed you a lot. Why? Because when a newborn baby gets a proper amount of a nutrition, at that period of a time, there is the production of the cells in the right amount. If the cells keeps on dividing, so definitely the baby remains healthy. Okay, so growth is very necessary. Repair. See, many of a time you have seen of this part in an accidental part. Okay, if a person gets a damage, gets a cut, or get a minor accident, or suffer by a major accident, so doctor always recommend to have a high proteinaceous diet. Why they recommend their patients to have a high proteinaceous diet? Because this proteins helps to repair the body cells. So this repair means wherever you got a cut or wherever you got a wound, by applying, by having a proper amount of a nutrition in proper quantity, will repair that damage fast. So that's why you can see that part in the poor people, as the poor people does not get a proper amount of a nutrition, and whenever they get a wound, it remains for a longer period of a time. But a person who has a balanced diet gets recovered fast. Then the third part, that is the energy. Definitely if you have a proper amount of the diet, so you will get a proper amount of energy. As in the cases of the athletes, sports player, you can see this part, they take the nutrition in a proper amount, so that is why they have the more production of the energy, so that they can carry up their day-to-day work. Okay, it helps in the maintenance. What does that means? See, if you take a proper amount of a nutrition, the chemical composition of the cells also help you to maintain a perfect life. Like how? If suppose RBCs, what is the function of the RBCs? The function of the RBCs is to transport the blood to each and every part of the body. So this RBCs, if this RBCs are the cells, right? If these cells are proper, so definitely there won't be any deficit in the body of blood. Okay, the oxygen supply and the RBC levels will be high, and due to this you will get a proper amount of the cells to each and every part of the body. This RBC will carry this oxygen. Provision of the raw materials. What does that mean? See, if you get a proper amount of diet, so there would be a proper secretion of the enzyme and the hormones. What does that means? See, in last year we have studied about the endocrine system. When you take an insufficient amount of iodine, okay, you have heard this word, insufficient amount of iodine, the person suffer from goiter. Okay, the person suffer from goiter. So this goiter, what does this means? There is a swelling of the neck. If suppose I take a proper amount of iodine in my diet, so am I going to suffer from goiter? The answer is no. Why? Because if you take the proper amount of iodine, So definitely you won't be suffer from any of the problems. Okay. Protection, what does that means? A person with a healthy immunity does not get infected, okay, very fast, and a person who is deficient of the nutrition, they suffer a lot. So that's why athletes, you have heard a many times that the athletes and the sports player are too fit, they hardly get ill. Why? Because the main factor is their diet. They take all the proper amount of a nutrition in a proper manner. Okay, they don't take too much fats or they don't take too much proteins. They take all the amount of the nutrition in the proper quantity. Now, to which foods, okay, what are the classes of nutrition? Okay, nutrients, there are 6 different classes, that is carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, minerals, proteins, mineral salts, and water. There are 6 different classes. Now one would be thinking, okay, out of the six, why water is included in the nutrients part? Because see, why water is included? Because our human body is made 70% of the water. If there is no proper amount of water, okay, if there is no proper amount of water, so what is going to happen? Your body will become dehydrated, and due to which you won't be able to digest up your food. So that is why water is one of the essential nutrition, because a give reason can come from this part, why water is considered as the classes of the nutrients. Now, as we have studied about the 6 different parts, now we are going to discuss about the first part, that is the carbohydrate. What do you mean by the word carbohydrate? The word carbo means carbon, and the word hydrate means water. Okay, the word hydrated means water. In this hydrogen and oxygen is always combines in a 2:1 ratio. Okay, this is the ratio, that is 2, and there are 2 dots and there is 1. Okay, 2:1 ratios. These carbohydrates have been broadly classified in the 3 part. Now, first, monosaccharide, disaccharide, polysaccharide. Now this mono, you have heard this in chemistry as well. Mono means 1, okay, and the word saccharide means sugar. What does disaccharide means? 2 sugar. What does polysaccharide means? More than 2. Let's understand them one by one. These are the different food items we can see out here. Okay, there are wheat, potatoes, bananas, okay, chips, bread. Many of the things have been kept out here. Okay, many, and chocolates also. So they have been classified into 2 types, that is the complex carbohydrates and the simple carbohydrate. See, complex carbohydrate and simple carbohydrate is not the part of the syllabus. This word carbs, the word carbs means the carbohydrate only, it's a shortcut. This part is not there, complex and simple. But you can at least assume this part, okay, what do you mean by complex and what do you mean by simple? The simple means which can be easily digestible, and the complex means which takes a time to get digested in an easier term. Okay, now first, monosaccharide. Okay, so we have understood the terminology of the monosaccharide, that the mono means 1 and saccharide means the sugar. They have been classified into 3 types, that is glucose, fructose and galactose. Okay, what is the formula? What is the general formula of the monosaccharide? The general formula is C6. You have studied this part. This is the glucose formula. This is the formula of glucose. C6H12O6. Okay, this is the formula of the glucose. Simple sugar, I can say. These are simple sugar. What does that mean? That means it is easily digestible. This glucose can be also called as grape sugar. because it is quite it has the natural sugar in it, okay, and it is the simplest form of the sugar in the organisms. Now second is fructose. Again, this is a simple sugar. What does fructose means? Fructose means fruit sugar. The sugar which is present inside the fruits have been considered as fruit sugar, okay. Galactose. This galactose, it's a simple sugar which is present in the milk, okay. So whenever we take up the milk from the milkmaid, so you can consume it directly also. So it will seem, you will, if you are going to drink that milk, okay, without adding sugar, so you will get the natural taste of sweetness. This is due to the presence of the galactose. But what does exactly monosaccharide means? The monosaccharide means the single structure. As of now, the structures are not there in the part of the syllabus, but I'm just going to explain you this part. Here the formula was C6, right? So this was carbon. Here 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this was basic structure. Okay, you just understand in an easier term. Don't go too deep because it will take a time to understand this structure. So we can see only a one chain like this. So that's why it has been considered as the monosaccharide. Now we are going to see about the disaccharide. Okay, disaccharide. What does disaccharide means? Di means two. Okay, saccharide means the sugar. Now we are, what is the formula of glucose? Just I'm going to help you out so that the concepts goes in your head. And disaccharide, this is 6 now, just double it up, so it becomes 12. Okay, what is the double of 6? That is 12. Now see, in the carbohydrates the water is in the form of 2:1 now. So here 1, just repeat the same number. Okay, just repeat the same number here, so it becomes a formula of a disaccharide. And how would be the structure? Suppose in the previous slide I have shown you this structure. Now as this is a disaccharide, so what we are going to do, we are going to make one more structure like this. Now we can see this part now. This is one structure and this is 2. So that is why it has been called as the disaccharide. Now what does disaccharide means and what is the difference between the monosaccharide? Monosaccharide means naturally founded sugar, but disaccharide means artificially prepared. Okay, like artificially prepared, or it can be used for the commercial as well. This sucrose, where is this sucrose is found? This sucrose is found in the sugar. So whenever we take any of the juices and all, we add sugar to it, so it adds taste. So sucrose is present in this sugar, okay, and this sucrose is also present in the sugar cane, okay, because as I said, this sucrose is a disaccharide. Disaccharide means made up of 2. So they are made up of glucose and fructose. And as we have studied the previous slide, this glucose and fructose both are monosaccharide in nature. If this sucrose get broken down, suppose let's assume like this, okay, this is a sucrose, okay, which is 2, and when it is get broken down, so it is getting formed into one. See, this one is for glucose and this one is for fructose. Like this you can understand. And this was a disaccharide. Now the second type, maltose. Where is maltose is present? In the honey. Even the honey tastes sweet. Okay. The honey is made up of a maltose. And this maltose is like 2. Okay. And they are made up of these 2 glucose molecules. This sucrose was made up of glucose and fructose, Same like that, this maltose is made up of this 2 glucose. Now lactose. Where is this lactose? It sounds a bit similar like galactose. The galactose was found in the milk sugar. So even this is the milk sugar, okay, but this is a complex form of that. This lactose, when this gets break, it gets divided into 2 parts. This name is glucose, which is a monosaccharide, and this is the galactose. Okay, this is the galactose. So this was all about the disaccharide, the different types of a disaccharide. Now we have to study about the starch also. You have already studied about this starch, okay, you have heard about this word. What does that means? Okay, first, starch is also a form of a carbohydrate, okay, which is insoluble in nature, and the formula of starch is C6H10O5 brackets N. Why N? Because this is polysaccharide. Here N means number. Any of the numbers you can put, but it should be more than 2. Okay, it should be more than 2. Because why it should be more than 2? Because if you are going to put 1, so the formula is going to remain the same, and if you are going to put 2, so this C will become 2L, na? So because of this, it will form a disaccharide. So N means a number which should be above 3, okay, above 2, which can form of the polysaccharides. These polysaccharides are form of this 2 insoluble carbohydrates, that is the cellulose and glycogen. Okay, you have heard this word cellulose. Where is this cellulose present? This cellulose is present in the plant cell. How was the structure of this plant cell? The outer structure, that is the cell wall. This cell wall is made up of cellulose. And what is cellulose? The cellulose is an insoluble carbohydrate form. Okay, why this cellulose is present, okay, in this plant? Because it helps to get rid of the unused food from your body. Okay, basically whenever you take up their diet, at that period of a time, the waste which gets expelled out of the body, this cellulose, because of this cellulose, it get easily excrete out of your body, because the function of the cellulose is for the it helps to get proper functioning of the stomach. Now glycogen. Suppose I am going to break this word for you. Glyco means glucose, and gen, Gen, gen means generator, glucose generator. What does this means? See, you have heard about the Mahatma Gandhi ji. He fasted for around 42 days. So how it was possible for Mahatma Gandhi to fast for so many days? Well, this is because the proteins, fats which was present inside his body have got converted into glucose. So that is why he was getting a proper amount of energy. So that is why he could fast for 42 days. If there was no proteins and fats in his body, so definitely he won't be able to fast for a single day also. So that because of this protein and fats which has got broken down and got converted into the glucose, so he got the sufficient amount of energy. So that is why it is called as the glycogen. Glycogen means the glucose generator. When the body is deficient of the glucose, so definitely there will be no energy inside your body. As there would be no energy inside your body, so how would you be able to function? So this protein and the fats gets broken down at that period of time and helps to get converted into the glucose. Now this is a question: why fats provide more energy than carbohydrates? Okay, see, the carbohydrates and the fats, both of them are energy giving food. Okay, both of them are the energy giving food. But why fats provide more energy than carbohydrate? Because fats stays in your body for a longer period of a time, whereas the carbohydrate does not stay a longer period of a time. It get easily diffused out. Okay, see, whenever you do any of the work, the glucose inside the body is get used up, but the fats inside your body stays for a longer period of a time. Okay, and from which food we can get these fats? Cheese, butter, ghee, meat, fish liver oils. These fats is a complex substance. What is the opposite of complex? The opposite of complex is simple. Okay, so as I said, the fats is a complex substance. So what would be its simple substance be called as? They have been called as fatty acids and glycerol. Okay, there are lot of terminology, so just take a notebook and write this down. This is made up of the fatty acids and the glycerol. Okay, fatty acids and glycerol are nothing but the simpler form of the fats, and this fats is the complex part. You have to learn this each and every name perfectly, because the digestive system chapter is completely based on the nutrition. If you understand the nutrition chapter perfectly, so you won't be find any kind of a difficulty in the digestive chapter. And this fats also provide the insulation. What do you mean by word insulation? That is the bad conductor of heat and electricity. But here we are talking about the fats. The person who are quite fat in nature, they sweat a lot because their body provide them the heat, so that is why they sweat a lot. Okay, and even the fats are very important, so we should have a sufficient amount of fats also, because you should not think like that the fats are bad. It is nothing like that. Fats are good also, because they help you to give up the perfect skin, and it helps you to provide the insulation also. Now protein is very important. Proteins again, these are the large chemical molecules. In an easy word, even I can say this protein is complex form. Okay, this protein is in complex form, like how fats was there, so even the protein is the complex form. This is nitrogen, and nitrogen is the most essential element in the proteins. See, we have to understand this part, that the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen is present in each of the nutrients, but this nitrogen, because of this nitrogen, presence of this nitrogen, it helps to make up this protein. So nitrogen is one of the most essential element. Okay, without a nitrogen there won't be any formation of the protein inside the body. As I said, this protein is the complex form, and the simpler form of the protein is the amino acids. Okay, so what do you mean by complex? Suppose this is a complex form of many of the molecule, and this is a single, and this single is called as the amino acids, and this is the protein. Okay, this is the protein and this is the amino acids. I am going to write AA. Now again, the point number 3 is very important, because a give reason can come from this part. This proteins helps in the growth and repair of the body cells. So we have studied this part in the needs of nutrition, how these nutritions are important. Because if you take a sufficient amount of a proteins, so you can heal yourself very fast. Okay, but if there is an insufficient amount of a protein in your diet, the wound would be stay for a longer period of a time. Okay, as in the poor people, as they don't get the proper amount of the diet, so that is why they always get a scratch and they get easily hurted. These are the protein rich food, that is egg, fish, meat. So is it right to say that the non-vegetarian food only contains the protein? No, there are vegetarian food also which contains protein, like leafy vegetables, beans, maize, grain. Okay, this all also provide you with the sufficient amount of the proteins. If we don't take a proper amount of a protein in our diet, so what would be the deficiency diseases? Okay, if suppose a person who is not taking up the proper amount of the protein, so he can suffer with the two problems, that is the kwashiorkor and the marasmus. Both this kwashiorkor and marasmus you are going to see in the child ages. Okay, this kwashiorkor and marasmus, according to the WHO report, that is World Health Organization, they have reported that this the kwashiorkor and marasmus is mostly there in the Africa. Why this is mostly in the Africa? South Africa basically, because the children in the Africa, the people in the Africa are very poor, and as they are very poor, they can't feed their child, so that is why they suffer from this kwashiorkor and marasmus. But why they have given as a different names? Let's see. Both of them are the protein diseases. Why they have been given as the different name, like kwashiorkor and marasmus? Let's understand. First, let's see up this structure perfectly, so that you can at least get an assumption what is kwashiorkor and marasmus is all about. So kwashiorkor and marasmus, this kwashiorkor is called सूखा रोग. It's an Hindi word, सूखा रोग. सूखा रोग means the insufficient amount of the diet. Here, if you are going to see in the kwashiorkor, there is the deficiency of the protein, that's for sure, because this is the protein deficiency symptom. Okay, there is the edema of legs and face. What does edema means? The edema means swelling. Okay, it's a biological word, but in easier term I am going to write edema means swelling. There is a edema of leg and the face. Okay, here legs and the face part also we can see this quite chubby. Here there is the patients, the skin of the patients can become dark. Okay, here we can see this is a dark child. Okay, now what happens in a marasmus case? Again, as I already said, okay, what is the difference between a kwashiorkor and a marasmus? So the most important one is, see, both of them are the protein deficiency diseases, but this marasmus, basically this marasmus, it affect up to 1 year, up to 1 year only. Okay, means early, very early in the stage of this life. Okay, when marasmus get occurs, when the child does not get a proper amount of milk from the mother. Okay, so we have heard about this part. Okay, when a newborn baby is born, so at least the mother should feed that child for around 6 to 8 months. Okay, but if this child does not get the proper amount of if this child does not get the proper amount of milk from the mother, so the marasmus can occur. So as we can see out here, we can see this ribs which has been protruding out. Okay, which has been easily visible. Okay, here there was a darkening of the skin. Here the darkening of the skin does not happen, and there is no edema. Okay, in the case of the marasmus, there is no edema. What do you mean by edema? Swelling. As we can see this baby, this is quite fat. Okay, not fat exactly, but the swelling part makes him fat, looks fat. And this marasmus has no edema. The baby is quite very thin in nature. Okay, and the muscles in the marasmus, okay, the muscles of the child who suffer with the marasmus are very weak. Okay, and this marasmus, the main part, this marasmus is not only protein deficiency part, but there is a lack of the carbohydrates, proteins, fats. This marasmus occur due to proteins only, but this marasmus occur due to proteins, carbohydrates and fats, all of this nutrition. So basically marasmus means a complete lack of nutrition, but whereas quasicore means only a deficiency of the proteins. What are the symptoms of the quasicore? If a child who is suffering with the quasicore, the way it would be underweighted, the belly protruding outward, stunted growth. The stunted growth means not a proper amount of a growth the baby will get. Loss of appetite. Loss of appetite means the baby won't be able to eat a lot. Okay. Repeated diarrhea means the loose motions. Edema of the feet and the faces. What are the symptoms of the marasmus? Less body weight. Okay. There is a thin face, thinning of the limbs. Limbs means leg and hands. Retarded physical and mental growth, as the baby does not get a proper amount of a nutrition. So definitely what is going to happen? There would be no physical and mental growth as well. Okay, the child will not develop perfectly. And the ribs are appearing prominent, as we can see in the photograph. Okay, as in the pic of this, we can easily see the ribs are easily visible in the case of the marasmus. These are the basic quasicore and marasmus. It affects from the age of 1 to 5, but it affects infant up to 1 year of age. This quasicore, I said that this is only protein related, but the marasmus is carbohydrate, fats related too. Quasicore is the edema of the legs, and no edema we are going to see. In the case of the quasicore, there is no degeneration of the muscles. Okay, but in the marasmus there is a degeneration of a muscle. The muscles does not get the proper amount of the other nutrition as well, that is carbohydrate and fat. So that is why the muscles in the case of the marasmus is quite weak. Mineral salts. Even the salts are very important. Okay, even the salts are way too important. Why these salts are very important? Because whenever a mother cook food, so at that period of a time she always have a pinch of a salt in her food. Why she adds a pinch of a salt? Because it not only gives up the taste, but it also helps you to get the proper amount of the nutrition. So first there is need of a calcium. Okay, phosphorus, potassium, sodium, iron, iodine. This all are related to the mineral salt. In which foods we are going to get this minerals? This is the dairy food, bean, cabbage, table salt, banana, potato, citrus fruit. What do you mean by citrus fruit? Lemon, oranges. They all are sour in taste. So they have been given as the special name, that is the citrus fruit. So what happens? What is the function of this calcium? If we take a proper amount of the calcium, so our bones will be healthy. Okay, and there will be a function of clotting of the blood. What does that means? Suppose this is a skin part. If suppose a person gets a cut, so there is a leakage of the blood. We can see this blood droplet from this skin. Okay, If it flows continuously, so definitely it means there is a deficiency of the calcium. If the calcium if the calcium is in the sufficient amount, so what is going to happen? There would be leakage of the blood, but after few hours there will be thread like fibers. It is going to form like this, which is going to stop the flow of the blood. Suppose this is the blood which was oozing out, but right now there is an exit out. This part is covered, so now no more loss of the blood. So calcium has a two main function, that is it helps in the constituents of the bones, it makes your bones strong, and clotting of the blood. And what would happen if there was a deficiency of the calcium? Rickets. What does rickets means? Rickets means basically soft bones, okay, poor skeletal growth. If a child who is suffering with the rickets, the bones in the case of the rickets are very soft and can be easily breakable if we apply too much of pressure on that child. So rickets. Okay, now phosphorus. Now this phosphorus is also very important, okay, because it helps in the formation of the energy production. Okay, this phosphorus helps in the production of the production of the energy, ATP, where what is the short form of this abbreviation form? Adenosine triphosphate. So this was the though because of this phosphorus only we get the proper amount of the energy. What would happen if there is an insufficient amount of phosphorus? Soft bones, okay, the bones will become soft, because this calcium and phosphorus both plays an important role in the bone formation, but calcium plays a lot, okay, and then the phosphorus also as well. Potassium and sodium both are quite related only. Where is sodium is found? In the table salt, that is NaCl. And where is this potassium is found? In the potato, banana and citric fruit. Both of the functions are quite related only, okay, and the deficiency symptoms are quite related to each other. If a person who does not get a proper amount of the potassium, so what is going to happen? Nerve impulse do not get transmitted. What does that mean? Nerve impulse do not get transmitted. See, if I am going to pinch you, so what is going to happen? You are going to produce up the sound from your mouth. Why? Because the nerves which were present inside your skin transmit up the message to your brain, and your brain instruct you to remove the hand, okay. So this, but when there is a deficiency of the potassium, so nerve impulses are not going to transmit up the message. You won't be feel any of the things. If I'm going to pinch you also, you won't be able to recognize that someone is pinching, because the impulses is not going to transmit up those messages. So this sodium and potassium both deficiency part is the same. But in the sodium case, you have to learn that there is a muscular cramp also. If there is a insufficient amount of a sodium, there would be leading to a muscular cramps. You have often seen this part in the swimming pool, where you don't have a sufficient amount of the sodium, okay, so it leads to a muscular cramps. Now we are going to discuss about the iron part. So iron, from which food we are going to get iron? From the wheat, okay, whole cereals, fish, okay, egg yolk, liver, kidney. From here we are going to find up this part, okay. This iron, this help in the formation of the hemoglobin, okay. What is the hemoglobin? Hemoglobin is the constituent of the RBC. See, our blood is red in color. Why our blood is red in color? Due to the presence of the hemoglobin, okay. But if there is an insufficient amount of iron in our body, it would lead to anemia. Anemia is a condition. Anemia is a very serious concern. What happens in anemia? There is an insufficient amount of RBCs. Insufficient amount of RBCs. If there is an insufficient amount of RBCs in your body, so how your blood will get transported to each and every part of the body? Okay, so iron is very necessary. Now the last part, that is the iodine. Okay, where you are going to find this iodine? Inside the salt. Okay, inside the salt and seafoods like fish and all. Okay, if there is an insufficient secretion of iodine, so it can lead to goiter, swelling of neck, and cretinism. Cretinism that occurs in the child, where the child does not get proper development. The child remains dwarf. Dwarf means short-heighted. Okay, and there is a poor mental and physical growth as well. Okay, what is the function of this iodine? Its main function is to secrete up the thyroxine hormone from the thyroid gland. You have already heard about this word in your 8th standard. So this was the part 1 of the nutrition. Thank you, students.